Today on the Inside Scoop, Gators got a top 3 class, and this weekend they're getting the number 1 wide receiver in America on campus. We'll also head to Tuscaloosa. We're going to talk with Andrew Bone, recruiting insider at Bama Online. But first, there is a big visit weekend building in Boulder. We're going to preview who Coach Prime has on campus for official visits and why they're so important to the Buffs 2024 class. But before we get going, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. I appreciate you guys. Look at this. We're over 20K in about 2 months. This thing's growing fast. We want you to be a part of it. Hit subscribe, please. Okay, let's bring on national recruiting analyst Sam Spiegelman. All right, look at this. Coach Prime has an idea of what he needs to improve the roster, and it's reflected in some of the names that'll be on campus. We got 5-star Jordan Seaton, 4-star wide receiver Dre'lon Miller, edge KingJoseph Edwards, and Florida Gator commitment Nasir Johnson. Sam, let's just start at the top. Offensive tackle Jordan Seaton, major need, especially after Coach Prime's comments after that last weekend's game. He's the number 1 rated offensive tackle in America. Just what's your read on his recruitment? I'll share mine after yours. I just want to see what you're thinking about Seaton heading into this one.
Yeah, we're starting to see who the real contenders are for the 5-star offensive tackle, Jordan Seaton. He's going to take an official visit to Colorado this weekend. I think already you're starting to see with the start of official visits, you're starting to get an idea of who is actually in the picture. It seems for such a high-profile blue-chip recruit that there's still a little bit of, confusion about who is really in this. I think that going back to Colorado almost gives Deion Sanders a real crack with the 5-star offensive tackle. We know that Oregon is in it. We know that Tennessee, Alabama, Florida are all contenders. But I think for someone like Jordan Seaton, who's going back to Colorado for an official visit, I think this is a big opportunity for Deion Sanders. And as we enter probably the peak of his recruitment, as he inches closer to a decision, this visit looms very large. But I think there's still a lot to be sorted out before a decision is coming in, Josh.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we're nearing a decision. I actually exchanged a few texts with Seaton last night, and he told me most likely he's going to make a decision on or around that December signing day. So that's December 20th for those keeping score at home is when I think Jordan Seaton's going to make his decision. Now, heading into the season in August, I thought, UF and Alabama were probably the 2 teams way out in front. I think UF has since faded a little bit. They were able to get him on campus for an official visit. That was a couple weeks ago now. Since then, he's been to Tennessee. He's been to Oregon. He's been back to Alabama. Now, I think Oregon right now has a lot of buzz coming off of that most recent official visit 2 weeks ago, but the team that people need to keep in the forefront of their mind is Ohio State. I think that just because he hasn't visited there doesn't mean that they're not heavily in this recruitment. I think Ohio State's going to try to get him on campus last. We know Jordan Seaton is very impressionable. He's emotional. He takes these visits very, they weigh heavily on him. And I think Ohio State's going to try to get in there and get that final one. But as for Colorado, I agree with you, Sam. I think they are very much in this. And Coach Prime doesn't like to lose, right? He doesn't like to lose on the football field. He doesn't like to lose on the recruiting trail. And one of those ways to become a winner is to improve that offensive line. And really right now, the number 1 offensive tackle in America is available. He's interested in Colorado. He tells me he's taken the whole family out there. The last time he was there for an unofficial visit, he went out there either it was by himself or with his uncle. This time, the entire family's coming with him to Colorado. I don't think the entire family has been on any official visit with them. So we'll see how this one goes, but it is a mightily important visit. We'll try to catch up with Jordan Seaton right here on the Inside Scoop next week. We'll see how it goes. Now, let's talk about somebody in your neck of the woods right there in Texas, and that's wide receiver Dre'lon Miller, top 100. He's the number 79 ranked player overall, really good. Just recently decommitted from Texas A&M. What are your sources saying about Miller since his decommitment? Who's kind of involved in this one?
Yeah, everyone has been trying to get involved. As his dad put it when he decommitted, the floor is open. Anyone who has interest in Dre'lon can make their pitch. But, a lot of teams have jumped to the forefront. Ole Miss was working really hard to get him on campus for this weekend's game against A&M. But he's heading to Colorado. He's going to visit Colorado, then LSU, and then USC. LSU and USC were finalists behind A&M when he committed to the Aggies over the summer. And Deion Sanders was at Dre'lon's game a couple of weeks ago, right after he decommitted. Dre'lon comes from a small town, Silsbee in East Texas, and Coach Prime, obviously one of the main faces of college football these days, was in his little small town, and that was a really big deal. And now he's going to go visit Colorado. They've been working very hard behind the scenes. We already know what Deion's record is with skill position players, and Dre'lon is extremely excited about his first visit to Boulder this weekend. I ultimately think it will boil down, though, to the Tigers and the Trojans. They have a little bit more rapport with Dre'lon, but I'm not ruling anything out after Dre'lon gets his first taste of Boulder and his first taste of this electric environment in Filsaime now.
Yeah, I really think that his second recruitment is only just starting because, like you said, he's going to probably go on this run of 2 or 3 official visits back to back to back, and then he'll probably make a decision right after that. So I think heading into this, Colorado probably does have ground to make up. I kind of lean toward LSU in this one, but I do think he's impressionable. In this weekend, Colorado is going to roll out the red carpet, so we'll see what happens. Now, moving on to edge KingJoseph Edwards, the 4-star out of Mill Creek High School down there in Georgia, 6'3.5", 220 pounds. Sam, you already put in a prediction for KingJoseph Edwards to Colorado. So did our colleague Chad Simmons. Do you think this is a situation where he could commit this weekend?
Well, like you said, we already have the picks in, but there still might be a little bit longer to wait before he makes a decision. I know that he is probably hoping to take all of his visits and be more calculated with his decision and be sure of it. He's waited long enough. But I'm not ruling out that Deion Sanders, like you said, they are having one of their biggest weekends of visitors of the season. That includes KingJoseph Edwards. Like you said, Deion Sanders and Colorado are trying to rebolt in the trenches. I would be surprised if they didn't try to apply the pressure to maybe get a commitment, maybe a silent commitment from KingJoseph this weekend. Right. But I believe that he'll probably at least try to take the rest of his visits to be sure. Like you said, it's already November. We're getting very close to that early signing period. I'm not ruling anything out, but I think this could play out a little bit longer.
All right, so Colorado fans, Sam feels good about the destination. He just doesn't know when it'll happen. So we'll have to just keep an eye on that. But like you said, Sam, anything could happen on these visits, especially when Coach Prime and has those guys out there in Boulder with all the hype and excitement going on the sidelines. The last name I want to hit on is defensive lineman Nasir Johnson. Now, he's a 4-star that committed to UF in June. UF had a killer month of June, and Nasir Johnson was one of those big commitments. He's from Dublin, Georgia, another Georgia prospect visiting Colorado. This will be an official visit. Now, Georgia also involved FSU too. Heading into this one, how solid do you think Johnson is right now to the Florida Gators?
Yeah, I think Johnson is in the case of a lot of these you talked about Florida and the way they kind of kicked butt in June and kind of took names on the recruiting trail. That includes Nasir Johnson. That was a big win for them. And now it feels like the Gators are just trying to hold on in the fourth quarter. He's clearly looking around. Schools like Colorado, Georgia, Florida State have all been actively recruiting him, and he's been taking his visits. He's heading out to Colorado this weekend. That should probably, the proof is in the pudding, as we like to say. Florida and Billy Napier are going to have their work trying to hold on. When you have coaches like Deion Sanders and Kirby Smart and Mike Norvell, these are some of the coaches on top of the college football pedestal right now. I think a lot will not only go into how hard these schools are recruiting him and how these visits go, but what Billy Napier and his staff can do behind the scenes to try to hold on. You always have to like where a committed player is when they're already committed to a school. They have a little bit of an edge, and they're going to have to crank that up to try to hold on down the stretch with Nasir.
Yeah, and Nasir Johnson goes 6'4", 300 pounds, could probably step in day one and play on that defensive line. I mean, really everybody that we talked about, from Jordan Seaton to Dre'lon Miller, KingJoseph Edwards, Nasir Johnson, all of them are impact recruits. All of them will be on campus at Boulder this weekend. Sam, do you still feel like Colorado, based on kind of what they've done this season, proof of concept, are they still a destination for a big-time surprise? Last year, it was Cormani McClain, the late flip of Dylan Edwards. He was a major impact for Colorado this season. Do you still feel Colorado has that type of potential to still do that down the stretch?
Well, look what Deion did based on, what his track record at Jackson State and his reputation as an NFL star, really a media star. He does everything. What he did with Cormani and Dylan Edwards before even coaching a game at Colorado was extremely impressive. Now it's November 2nd, and we're gearing up for the stretch run of this 2024 recruiting cycle, and we're already seeing that the guest list that we saw at the beginning of the year, they were really impressive before Colorado played a snap. Now we're at the back end of the season, and the visitor list is continuing to be star-studded, continues to be big names on both sides of the ball. I would be surprised if we didn't see some major movement by Deion, whether it's a flip, getting a guy that maybe no one was paying attention to, or we just misread his recruitment. This is Deion Sanders. He is a recruiting aficionado. He's already done it at every stop he's been at. And right now, Colorado is one of the main teams that we talk about, Josh, every single week in the same light as Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama and Florida. It is a big name brand in college football, and recruits are very cognizant of it. It's a talk every week on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays when you go to high school games and talk about college football. I would be surprised if Deion didn't pull out the smoke at some point. It's only November 2nd. Maybe this time next month we're starting to see some of the smoke turn into fire, but I'm sure that the fuel is in the ignition right now.
Oh, yeah, it's coming. Recruiting season is almost here. It's coming. I do agree. I think Coach Prime, he's passionate about improving this roster. And in college football, there is no draft. So the only way to infuse more talent into the roster is to go out and recruit it. And I think as soon as the season ends, Coach Prime's going to hit the trail hard, and we're going to see some surprises. Sam Spiegelman, thank you for stopping by the Inside Scoop today, talking a little bit of Coach Prime in Colorado.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
The Florida Gators have the number 3 ranked class in the country, and you can say what you want about the Gators on the field this season, but on the recruiting trail, they are a force. And news just broke moments ago on Gators Online that Jeremiah Smith will be in Gainesville this weekend. Yes, the Ohio State commitment. He's the number 1 ranked wide receiver in America, and he's going to be in Gainesville. So in this video, we're going to talk big name visitors on campus this weekend, including an Alabama flip target. We'll also check in on a few Gator commitments that have been taken to visits to other schools. Are they on flip watch? We're going to talk all about it. But first, UF fans, hit the subscribe button to the On3 Recruits channel. We're about 2 months in, and this thing's over 20K. We want you to be a part of it. Please subscribe. Okay. Let's bring on my guy, Corey Bender from Gators Online. Just moments ago, you guys had it. 5-star plus wide receiver Jeremiah Smith back in Gainesville. Now, Corey, I've been reading the internet, and insiders from other programs are kind of counting out the Gators, but Jeremiah Smith shows back up on campus. Well, he's planned to this weekend. What are you hearing in terms of where things stand between him and the Gators?
Yeah, I still think Florida has some room to make up. Obviously, I think any school you could say has a ton of room to make up. I think it's going to be very difficult to change his mind ultimately. But yeah, I think he's playing in St. Petersburg, Josh. So it's not too far from Tampa, about 2-hour drive up to Gainesville. So he's playing this game on Friday, and then after that, him and his family are going up to Gainesville for that noon kickoff. So I think overall, I think Florida State might be ahead of Florida right now as far as the schools pushing to flip him from Ohio State. But ultimately, when it's all said and done, I mean, I think it's going to be a shock. It would be a shocker if he wants to change his mind at some point.
How important is it for the Gators to have a big offensive day on Saturday in front of a guy like Jeremiah Smith?
Absolutely. No, it's huge, man. And I think obviously with Graham Mercy cylinders, you have guys like Eugene Wilson, who's a 5-star, just like Jeremiah Smith is. So I think overall, if you're Jeremiah Smith, you're seeing that they're obviously getting young guys involved. They're passing the ball. I know overall Graham Mertz, I mean, he's spreading the ball out more than probably a lot of the SEC quarterbacks. So I think it's very important, but I think it's more than that. I think it's, obviously DJ Lagway is a huge factor. I mean, that relationship, knowing the future of the program. So I know that's something he's excited about, but also with the staff too. I think just the opportunity to play in the SEC and kind of guy in Florida's offense, if he was to go there, those are big appeals as well.
All right. Now, another big name that'll be on campus this weekend is cornerback Jameer Grimsley. He's committed to Alabama and has been now for some time. And these rumors aren't new of him in Florida and a potential flip. But this weekend, he's on campus. And as the season wears on, we're kind of getting into flip season. So is this one that you have on flip watch this weekend, or is there still ground to make up?
Yeah, Josh, I would say I wouldn't put on flip watch yet. There's a little bit of ground to make up, but if he was to change his mind, I think Florida would definitely be that choice. We went to his school on Tuesday, and you could tell that commitment's solid. I know he likes to,
Okay.
where Alabama season's going. He kind of looks at a lot of the younger guys. Mentioned Tyrion Arnold, another Florida native who was shining in the secondary. But when it comes to Florida, it's that relationship with Corey Raymond. It's it's his lifelong favorite school. People in his family still love Florida. They still cheer for them every Saturday. So there's a lot to like about Florida. When you speak to Grimsley, he says all the right things. But I know from speaking to sources, on both sides, there is still some optimism for Florida and everything. If this weekend, if it goes well, this is going to determine if he returns for an official on the weekend, December 8th. So it's definitely a massive weekend in terms of, Florida can flip them down the line.
Yeah, big Alabama-Florida battle there. Now let's talk about corner Zay Mincey. He's from Daytona Beach, Maryland. And, of course, the Gators did a phenomenal job recruiting his teammate, L.J. McCray, who they landed over Miami, over Georgia, over Florida State. It was a huge win for the five-star defensive lineman. Now his teammate, Zay Mincey, who's fresh off a visit to Alabama, is expected to be in Gainesville this weekend. Corey, can we say that the Gators are the favorite to land him because of the job that they did with L.J. McCray?
Yeah, I would say I've been trending towards Florida even before that. Since March, I think I put in a prediction. I was pretty out in front of that one as far as where I think Florida stands. But having LJ definitely helps a lot. But the one thing I haven't heard between them is that they're going to be a package deal. That's never been brought up. And I've always kind of hinted at this too. Florida, when they took their OVs to Florida, they came on different weekends. So I think it definitely helps Florida in that regard. And I kind of said whoever won out this weekend as far as getting him on campus, because it was 50-50. Florida secured this visit weekend about a month ago. But when he went to Tuscaloosa, they invited him back for this big LSU game on Saturday. So he was 50-50 as far as which game he was going to go to. But with now him expected in Gainesville, I think that kind of, in my eyes, puts them a little bit more in the driver's seat. You still have Miami in the background as well. But I think since that OV to Tuscaloosa, I've been hearing in Alabama, and I still give Florida that very slight edge at this point.
All right, Zay Mincey, just like Jameer Grimsley, another Alabama-Florida battle. Let's talk about offensive tackle Favor Edwin. Now, he's coming in on an official visit. The Gators, they don't like to do official visits in season, but they'll buck that trend for a big-time offensive tackle. They did it for Jordan Seaton. Now they're going to take in three-star Favor Edwin on an official visit this weekend, and they need to because he is trending heavily to Auburn at 97% on the recruiting prediction machine. Corey, do you think that the Gators staff can kind of turn the tide of this recruitment this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think early on, I was close to putting a prediction for him over the summer. He was going to OV in June, but his commitment timeline, he wanted more towards December, and Florida wanted to bring him in later in the season too. So it kind of worked out for both parties. But since then, Florida was kind of going back and forth on. But, I spoke with a source this week in Gainesville that said, he's definitely a take for Florida. They love his upside. They think he has a high ceiling down the road. So I think, and like you said, Josh, they don't like hosting unofficial visitors. Obviously, with Jordan Seaton, they kind of put that aside. They said whenever he wants to visit, we'll do it. But it shows you right now with Favor Edwin. It's a guy they've been familiar with for a while. And, even the FSU game at the end of the year, I heard they might have some OVs that weekend too. So, but I think overall, I think Auburn, you have to definitely feel very good about where they stand. But Florida, he's more familiar with Florida over the past year than Auburn. So I think if everything goes well this weekend, I can see Florida pulling even or even, surpassing Auburn at some point.
All right. Well, there's a much bigger visitor list up on Gators Online. You guys can go there and check it out. How's the start of college football season been for you guys? I know the games have been great, but you know what's not great? Finding last-minute tickets. Finding tickets before a game can sometimes be a nightmare. And do not let this be the way that your season goes. That's why I'm here to tell you about Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the big-time matchups. Game Time will get you to this year's biggest college football games with elite deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee. Do not stress over getting into your team's favorite game, the biggest rivalry game of the year. There's only so many games you can go to, and you need to get these tickets at the best prices. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Guys are terrible at that. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Game Time, they have deals on tickets even after an hour after the game starts. It is the place to get last-minute ticket deals. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets on all sports and even concert events. So here's what we're going to do. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So we'll see what happens. Now, as I said at the top, Florida is recruiting at a very high level, which is why other teams are pursuing some of their commitments. Now, let's take a look at who the Gators are trying to hang on to down the stretch. Of course, Xavier Filsaime, he's one of the best safeties in the country. Now, Texas is involved there, but he's come out and recently said he's locked into the Gators. So until I see Xavier show up in Austin, I'm not really too concerned. I want to talk, though, about edge Jamonta Waller. He showed up on the plains at Auburn a couple times now, Corey. Is there concern that Waller is getting a little close with Auburn?
Yeah, there's some concern, Josh. I mean, I would probably put his commitment probably around like the 8% mark, 90. I know with Auburn, it's a little bit closer to home, and, he's been there. I know, obviously, that program's kind of on the rise in their first year, obviously, after a coaching change. There's a lot of excitement around the program. I still like Florida. I know when he visited Florida for a Tennessee game, the kid was nearly speechless and basically raved about, of all the kids we spoke to after that Tennessee game, he might have had the most notable quote saying there's no better place than Gainesville in Florida. So I think the biggest thing for Florida is getting him back on campus for another unofficial to remind him that, hey, this is why you picked Florida in the first place. But until then, yeah, I think if you're a Florida fan, your Florida staff, you kind of have to be kind of stay on the edge of your seat a little bit and kind of recruit him like he's not in the class. And I kind of said that with Kelby Collins a cycle ago. Yeah, he's committed, but keep recruiting him like he isn't, and then hopefully he signs on the dotted line.
All right, another one that's been bouncing around the country taking visits is Nasir Johnson. This weekend, he'll be at Colorado. What's your take on Nasir? Of course, he's a talented big body on the defensive side, and he's highly coveted. Can the Gators hang on to him?
Of all the kids in the class right now, I think Nasir is the one I'm monitoring the most. And it's funny, I talked to him about a week and a half ago. He's like, I'm 100% locked in. He says all the right things, but I know Georgia's been lurking. Florida State's been in the mix for a while, and now Colorado. It's funny. I know he liked Florida. Obviously, he's in the class, and he likes everything he's seen. He has a good relationship with the staff, but that door's kind of cracked open. He's kind of seeing what else is out there. I would put his commitment probably around 80 to 75% range. And I know a lot of fans will be like, man, that's really low, but right now, I mean, he's had opportunities to flip. He's taking visits, but he's still in the class, and he keeps coming back to Gainesville. So right now, I mean, he's definitely one of the ones to monitor, but until he flips, we'll have that conversation when it comes.
All right. Now, defensive lineman Amaris Williams, he showed up in Columbus visiting Ohio State recently. Are the Buckeyes the biggest concern when it comes to Amaris Williams?
Yeah, Josh, I definitely would say the Buckeyes. Yeah, he had an outstanding visit up there, and understandably so. He loved it. And Tennessee's been kind of knocking on the door for a while, too. And you watch his film. I mean, this kid's elite. You watch, he's very versatile. So I wasn't too surprised when Ohio State offered. I always thought he was kind of the kid that maybe could receive a little bit bump in the rankings. I always loved his film. But, yeah, Ohio State's really turning on the pressure. But the good thing for Florida is he's expected to come down to Gainesville this weekend for a noon kickoff, unofficial visit. And, you would think that would be no chance that would happen after a game up in North Carolina. But that's the plan. And if Florida can obviously come through and get him on campus and he shows up, that could kind of turn the momentum back their way. So I think you look at this list, you have a lot of notable guys, Jameer, Grimsley, Mincey, and those are the notable guys. But this is right up there as far as importance, as far as keeping a guy in the class. And we'll see where it goes. He's going to be one of the first guys we're kind of anxious to speak to after the game.
Yeah, very important to get Amaris back on campus. So this weekend, though, the Gators, they take that number 3 ranked recruiting class into the weekend against Arkansas. Big names on campus. Thanks again, Corey Bender, for stopping by the Inside Scoop and talking about it. Let's head to Tuscaloosa, where the Tide are hosting a big visit weekend with LSU coming to town. Big game, big visit. Sounds like just another weekend for Alabama recruiting. In this video, we'll hit on 2 important official visitors. Bama is also locked in a heated SEC battle for both Zay Mincey and Daniel Hill. We have intel on both, plus much more. But first, Alabama fans, before we get going, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We need you to be a part of it. Hit subscribe. Thank you. All right, let's bring on my guy Andrew Bone from Bama Online. Look at these official visitors. We got Jayshawn Ross from Kansas City, then also edge Elias Williams, who's committed to Mizzou. Let's start with Jayshawn Ross. How long and how deep is this recruitment? Where does he stand on the board?
Yeah, so Jayshawn Ross is actually a new name for Alabama. It's a kid that received an offer from the Crimson Tide a couple weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago. And Coleman Hutzler, Alabama's outside linebackers coach, went and saw him play last week. Now, the offer happened about 3 weeks ago. Coleman Hutzler finally was able to go out, watch him play on Friday night during Alabama's bye week. They were really impressed. 6'4", 225-pound outside linebacker out of Kansas City. This is a kid that took a lot of his official visits during the summer. Now, he took a few during the fall. Oklahoma, Kansas State, Nebraska, all in contention there. But we do know that Alabama is pushing hard here. They really like him a lot. He could potentially be that outside linebacker that Alabama is looking for in this class. They do have 3 inside linebacker commits right now. Could potentially add one more in Jayshawn Ross. One other linebacker that they really like a lot is Tristan Jernigan, who was supposed to be on campus for an official visit this weekend, but he's decided to wait. He's going to take that official visit in December now, but he's more recruited as an inside linebacker. So, can they potentially add an outside guy in Jayshawn Ross? We'll see how the visit goes, over the weekend.
All right, another one that Alabama's kind of turned the heat up in more recent weeks is Elias Williams. He's committed to Missouri, but the 3-star edge is taking an official visit to Alabama this weekend. What's the feeling here? Can Alabama flip him?
Yeah, they're trying to. This kid that received an offer from Alabama on August the 28th. Now, 3 days later, he commits to Mizzou. So, it was. I think he pretty much already knew where he was going to go before Alabama extended that offer. But now Alabama has been in the race for the last couple months now. They've been pushing hard. They really like him a lot. There's some other schools that are involved as well. Tennessee extended him an offer. So did USC this fall. He took an unofficial visit to Knoxville a couple weeks ago. Well, I guess you could say last month now. But this is a kid that Alabama really likes a lot on the defensive front. He's 6'4", 270 pounds. I think he's rated as an edge recruit, but more so recruited as a defensive end. Now, I think he's a guy that's having a great senior season, and certainly somebody that Alabama is hoping that they could potentially flip away from Mizzou. But I don't think it's going to come. I think there's some other schools that, like I mentioned, Tennessee, USC, that are involved, and they're going to try to flip them as well.
All right, now let's hit on 2 names that Alabama fans are very familiar with: Daniel Hill and Zay Mincey. We'll start with running back Daniel Hill. He's out of Mississippi. This has been a South Carolina, Alabama battle. Tennessee also involved a little bit, but Andrew, how many more times does Daniel Hill need to be in Tuscaloosa before he closes this thing out?
Well, Daniel Hill has been to Tuscaloosa more than I have this season, which is kind of wild to see. But this is going to be his 4th trip to Alabama this fall. I think he was at pretty much every home game last football season.
Yeah.
So he's been to Tuscaloosa a lot. We know that his family really likes Alabama. He delayed that decision back in August and has pushed things back to potentially after his senior season's complete. But Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina all still remain in contention for Daniel Hill. I think everyone just assumes that he's going to go to Alabama because of as many times as he's been to Tuscaloosa for the last couple of years. But I just don't know if it's a slam dunk just yet. I think he's, there's some reason why he's continuing to wait, and I'm not sure what that reason is. But does another trip to Alabama help? Is it going to be sort of more of the same? We'll kind of see how the weekend goes. But there are other running back targets that are out there that Alabama's still going after. Not just Daniel Hill, but he's probably the guy that they've recruited the longest to this point. So we'll see kind of how things go. Not necessarily this weekend. I think he's going to enjoy the weekend visit as he always does. I think we're probably going to wait and see what happens with him after the conclusion of his senior season.
Tailgate season is here, and Inside Scoop fans, I need to tell you about these Bird Dog shorts that I've been wearing. Bird Dogs, they were the big winner for me this summer, and I'm rolling right into the fall with them as well. I wear them to work. I wear them golfing. You guys know I brought them on vacation with me to Florida, so they are definitely my first pick for tailgating. Last weekend, I didn't pull up to Lot B with the boys in my old stiff khakis. Nope. I had my Bird Dogs on instead, and I'm glad I did because it's still hot out there. I know it just became October, and it should be fall, but it is swampy out there. Not in my Bird Dogs, because Bird Dogs have a great cloud knit fabric that looks just like a nice pair of khakis, but way more flexible and way more comfortable. And most importantly, it keeps you cool and dry, even for a noon kickoff. So here's what we're going to do. Go to birddogs.com/Josh. or enter promo code Josh for a Bird Dog Tech hat with your order. Yeah, one of these. Fashionable, it fits, it's great. I love to wear it golfing. Anyway, you get one of those free with your order if you type in birddogs.com/Josh or promo code Josh for a Bird Dog Tech hat. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. All right, Bone, before we round it out, what is your most memorable LSU Alabama recruiting battle? Because there has been a few.
Yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, you go back to, you look at, Landon Collins. I was at the Under Armour game that year when he announced for Alabama, and his mom was shaking her head. And I was standing about 10 feet from him, and I said, there's no chance he signs with Alabama after seeing the way she was acting. But, lo and behold, he ends up signing with the Tide. I remember Kenny Bell flipping his commitment from LSU to Alabama on signing day. Nobody even knew he was even a target for Alabama. But we actually sent one of our video guys to his press conference that day. People were asking us, well, why are y'all here? He's going to LSU, and then he signs with Alabama that day. So that was pretty funny. Dylan Moses, that recruitment, being offered by Alabama and LSU, and he was just in the 8th grade. I think the thing that kind of started it off though for Alabama was Luther Davis, the big top 100 defensive lineman out of Louisiana, was committed to LSU. Nick Saban arrives on campus, and within a month he flips Luther Davis, who is a U.S. Army All-American, from LSU to Alabama, and it kind of just opened up the door there to say, Alabama's not going to be scared of LSU. They're going to go into Louisiana. Nick Saban's here in Tuscaloosa now, even though everybody in the state of Louisiana and every LSU fan in the world hated Nick Saban at the time. He didn't care. He was going to go into Louisiana, recruit, because he knew that was such a talented, rich hotbed, and he was going to recruit that state really hard. And he's done quite well. We've seen so many top end guys from the state of Louisiana go to Alabama through the years. And, I think that Luther Davis flip really opened the door for Alabama there.
Yeah, and boy, was there some really epic battles, and most of them ended up going Alabama's way. Of course, LSU did win their fair share as well. This year, though, not as many, but hey, it's always fun to look back. Andrew Bone with Bama Online, thanks for dropping by today on the Inside Scoop and talking about Alabama's big visit weekend.
All right, thanks for having me, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.